Certified bangers. PhantasmaCast.
Welcome back to PhantasmaCast, folks. I'm Jake.
And I'm Derek.
And this episode is all about Divine. That's right. We're going to be talking about 1981's Polyester and 1988's Hairspray.
Yeah, we are.
But first, Derek, did you get a haircut?
I did. Thanks for noticing. It's getting hot out, so I was just like, let's get ahead of this and just trim it all off because I'm going to be moving here soon recently.
Yeah.
Recently? I'm going to be moving soon.
In the future, I will have moved recently.
Yes. It's a month from now. I'm moving. So I just wanted to get ahead of that and not have to sweat.
We have to get some pictures of you online so people know.
Yeah.
Let the public know. What'd you buy recently, Derek?
Okay. Let's see. I grabbed a 4K copy of Looper.
Nice. That's new, right? That just came out?
It feels new because if I would have seen it before, I would have snagged it earlier. So, I just saw it and was like, boom, don't care how much. Let's go.
Looper was cool because I think it came out in a time when I feel like just like sci-fi was dead, you know?
Yeah.
And it was, I mean, it's a time travel movie and there's so many time travel movies, but like it was cool, you know? And it was like a crime movie at the same time.
Yeah. And not to like take any shots at a specific actor, but it was when Joseph Gordon-Levitt could lead a movie. I don't feel like he doesn't do that anymore. So it's just kind of like, that was cool at the time. It's like, oh, a Joseph Gordon-Levitt led sci-fi movie? This is interesting.
He had a run around that time. He did like Don John like pretty soon after that.
Yeah, and I think that kind of killed it afterwards, maybe.
Which
I don't know.
I didn't watch it.
But we haven't heard too much of him since. Another thing I picked up.
He went off and did a like a YouTube show that actually was pretty cool in theory. I never watched it. It was called like Hit Record.
Oh.
And it was all about like kind of inviting like creatives to come together and make videos. Like it was a pretty cool concept.
Yeah,
I think he
like
just did that for a while.
User submission led stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And then TikTok happened. He's like, what the fuck? Another movie I picked up was the 2007 version of Hairspray, the musical.
Uh-huh.
Because why not?
It's fun.
It was on the brain, you know. It is a lot of fun. It was the shake and shimmy edition or something like that too. And it took me a while to find it because it was for some reason grouped with the comedies and not the musicals. I don't know what they were thinking.
Don't comedies and musicals have the same like what do you call it? Category at the Oscars?
The Oscar category.
Yeah.
They're like, whatever they're up to.
Yeah, we're playing by Oscars rules, bitch.
I'm like, it don't make no sense. Also picked up Talk to Me, finally. Because they finally just dropped the new price of the Blu-ray to like $18. I was like, that's respectable. I'll pick that up.
Okay.
And it has a very nice pristine sleeve on it too. You know me. I like my sleeves.
Yes. Another movie that like is related to like a group of people who like went and did like internet YouTube stuff.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm forgetting their names. It's like
Raka Raka.
Okay. Yeah. And I was like, boom. And they made that and you're like, wow, good job. I would like to see whatever they do next.
I want them to be able to make movies forever because they're fucking great. They're so good, so talented. I would watch them in college and be like, I don't have it. They do.
I ain't got it. I am built different and different is bad. And then because my buyer's envy got the best of me, I picked up that 4K neon collector set of Old Boy.
You're in the club now.
Yes. I am an old boy. Wait, can't tell if this is a good thing or a bad thing.
We were walking around Zia and we saw We saw it in a case, right? But
Yeah.
But you you come around the corner and you're like, I'm looking for a loose old boy.
I forgot about that until just now.
And I'm like, me too.
I love when things just come off the temple like that, and it's just like, that's the dirtiest shit I've ever heard. And I did not mean it that way. But yeah, so I got that, old boy. That was it for my recent purchases. What were you getting up to?
I had an interesting journey in the past couple weeks. I saw that they had finally released The Abyss on 4K.
Finally, yeah.
So I don't think that it ever got a Blu-ray release.
I wouldn't doubt it. It's that James Cameron envy. They're like, why should he have all the fun?
Yeah, yeah. And it was a blind buy for me. I'd never seen The Abyss.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so a couple weekends ago, I just popped it on because I've been playing Subnautica.
Yeah.
And so I was like, give me some more ocean shit. And
look at all my ocean shit.
Look at all my ocean shit. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's like, it's big budget movie making, and it's just a dream to watch.
Yeah. Ed Harris, man. That guy can hold your attention.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And like, in a lot of ways, it's just Alien, but in the ocean, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like the way, and I know James Cameron did Aliens, not the first one, but you know, I had read that he originally envisioned the story as like, it's a group of scientists, but he wanted to make it more relatable. So he instead made it like, you know, a bunch of people who work on an oil rig, and like those were your main characters.
The blue collar angle.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, that was great. Looks great in 4K. If you get a chance, you should get it.
Okay.
And then this is like candy. I knew that the Arrow had released a box set of the Conan, the Barbarian films on 4K. So and it looks just so sexy. It looks so good. It's
got that film look.
I haven't watched the 4Ks yet, but like just the box alone looks so cool. Like,
oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about the actual.
I'm sure it
movies
looks
themselves.
fantastic.
Yeah. Okay. The box looks like candy.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. She's a thick bitch because like there's lots of there's like a little book in there. Lots of special features. I really want to like dig into that.
Would you say it's Conan with 2 C's? Two C's in 4K. All right, that's enough. I'll stop myself.
I'm done. I'll cut myself
Show
off.
this bitch out.
And then the last two, they're just DVDs. But you know, every now and then I just want to grab something that's like a little older and that I don't necessarily think I see a lot on Blu-ray, if at all.
Yeah, or if it even made the jump.
Yes,
that's an important physical media conversation to be had. Where the hell are the Blu-rays on these things?
Right. I think we get served up such a bad fucking deal because there are just a lot of movies that don't get Blu-ray releases in America only. Like in region B, you see a lot of that stuff. Like I was trying to find Ennis Men or Ennis Man. Is that weird experimental like Irish horror film?
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Yeah. Because
it's
a fairly
out now.
recent movie.
Yeah, it came out like last year or something.
Okay.
And I was like, one day I was like, where is this? And I looked it up, and it has a DVD release in America, not a Blu-ray release.
God.
Yeah.
Can you imagine the contract on that thing? Just be like, yeah, we'll make your movie.
Yeah. They're just like, no faith in this to sell at all. And, you know, and it's not entirely their fault. It's like, you know, who the fuck's going to, you know, pay to buy it? But like, come on. Like, you know, I have thoughts about region B. Anyways, I picked up Wag the Dog, which is a war satire film that I had always wanted to see. Mainly because Dustin Hoffman plays this like really flamboyant like Hollywood producer, and he gets hired by Robert De Niro. Robert De Niro works for the government, and they're like, we need to manufacture this war that's happening so we can distract from this this scandal that's happening with the president.
Yeah, see, that story wouldn't fly today. That's too real.
Right. It was very predictive, you know? Yeah. So I want to give that a watch. And then one of my all-time favorites, it's not like a movie that makes it on a lot of like best of lists, but Eulogy. Have you ever seen it?
No. Ray Romano,
Hank Azaria, Zooey Deschanel, Rip Torn. Rip Torn's great in it. Basically, Zooey Deschanel's like grandpa dies, and the family goes back to their grandparents' house for the funeral, and it's a lot like that movie The Big Chill, but a little different. Yeah,
I feel like there's at least 2 or 3 like someone dies and all these like disparate family members get back together for the funeral movies.
Yeah.
That you specifically have been like, have you seen that? I'm like, no, where are you watching all these? This is that interdimensional cable from your childhood where you're like, yeah, I just saw this on TV once when I was a kid.
I don't know why I like them. I like Eulogy I think is a little bit more like childish in humor, and then like The Big Chill is like funny, but it's a little more serious, like the guy who dies that killed himself, and it's all his like college friends who come back. But like the funny part about Eulogy is like all the kids are like, yeah, like we were like okay with our dad, but he was just kind of never there. And then like towards the end of the movie, spoiler alert, skip ahead 10 seconds, it's revealed that Rip Torn, who's the grandpa, like had like 3 other families.
Oh. Yeah. So he's like, I gotta go. The other kids are calling.
Yeah, and they're all just like, oh, it makes sense why he never got our names straight. But the whole family, all the kids, they're just like, they all pined for his attention, but like they could never win because guess what? He had like fucking 10 other kids.
Yeah. Wait, Rip Torn is the dead father.
Grandpa. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, those are the movies I got.
Cool.
Pretty good set.
Well, on to the movies we'll be discussing for the bulk of the podcast.
Yes.
Let's just dive into it. Why choose these films? Let's start with Polyester because it came first. Why do you think when we were thinking up this episode, we're like, you know what? Polyester made the cut over like another John Waters movie of that time, would you say? If you have an answer for this.
We wanted to do like a John Waters. We wanted to cover some John Waters films, right?
That is how it started. We're like, John Waters. I'm like,
yes.
And I'm like, yes, go.
Which ones?
Yeah.
And what feels like almost picking them at random, I think later we discovered, oh, those were the kind of last 2 movies that John Waters had made before basically going mainstream, right? Like Polyester, I think, was one of their first films that got any kind of real distribution. And then Hairspray definitely got distribution. The budgets that came along with those films. So it's just kind of great to find a spot in like a filmmaker's like filmography where, there's a period where they're kind of hustling and just scraping together everything to just make a movie, and then like they get noticed and money starts coming their way, so I think that's a kind of a lens that I kind of watch these movies through. They're the 2 movies that kind of transformed John Waters' career and kind of cemented him into the kind of legendary status that he has today. And sadly, they were the last two Divine movies.
Yeah, or last two John Waters Divine pairings, at least. But I mean, that's fair to think of because we kind of think of them as being one.
A pair,
really,
right?
Yeah.
They're Laurel and Hardy, they're Abbott and Costello, they're Jay and Silent Bob, you know.
Yeah, like no disrespect to John Waters at all. He's a king. But I can't really think of any John Waters movies that I've seen after Hairspray where I'm like, yeah, that's a John Waters picture. Like there's a handful that exist and they're probably good, and you've seen a handful of them?
Yeah, I've definitely seen like his later ones. A Dirty Shame, okay, which is really funny.
There was a Pecker.
Pecker. This is gonna sound bad. Pecker I saw when I was a kid. So I
haven't seen Pecker since I was a little child.
Yeah, I remember seeing the title Pecker and going, "Is that a porno?" You know?
It's just the Beavis and Butthead laugh.
Yeah. But I mean, yeah, that's true. Like it almost feels like it's a different vibe without Divine.
Yeah.
There's Divine and then there's post Divine.
Mm-hmm.
But these movies were solidly Divine. Oh, that sounded nice.
Whoa. Episode title? Wow. Look at you.
Divine Comedies.
Yeah.
So yeah, what did you get out of like the pairing of these two movies?
I mean, obviously what you said, but I really liked the contrast in style between the two, where Polyester was shot like a quote unquote like real movie, had some like great lighting, like great camera movement, and
a far cry from their earlier films.
Yeah. It was like professional. Mm-hmm. Like they knew how to make a damn movie, you know. But it still had that John Waters sensibility of like just over the top theatrics of like, darling, I don't know what I'd do without you, like that style of acting. But with the sensibility of like wanting to get distribution and like make some money off of this to make another movie, whereas like Hairspray kind of lost a little bit of that edge in favor of even more like mainstream appeal of like a little less Divine, maybe not on like purpose, but just like trying to, you know, get that foot in the door of like, hey, we're not all about just front and centering Divine. Like I still have my style and my stories I want to tell. So here's this.
That's a really good perspective because, you know, before Polyester, and including Polyester, actually, there's just a lot of grossness, you know, that you've got, Divine
like intentionally.
Yeah. And that's like, you know, part of the style of it all, right? There's, you know, scenes of Divine, eating shit in Pink Flamingos. She gives another actor a blowjob in a scene.
Yeah.
And then, you know, just the characters that Divine had played in, you know, movies like Desperate Living, Multiple Maniacs. She goes into a theater. What was it? She gets like executed in a theater, like in an electric chair. And it's just these big, zany, hugely inappropriate comedies. And then you've got like Hairspray, which is a PG movie, that you know, it really doesn't have that teeth, but it still has the same sense of humor. And I think that's rare for filmmakers to go from one style and having, you know, the freedom to be as gross or offensive as they want, and then to make like a really sweet movie, but it still has that quality and that sense of humor. That's, you know, that's a good contrast.
Yeah. Like it is about a girl who wants to just do what she loves, dancing, and make it onto the Corny Collins show.
Yeah.
And then also end segregation.
Yes.
But then there's still the John Waters edge in spurts, with literally John Waters showing up with like I love that little hypno ray where he's like, you love white boys. You know?
gives himself the most insane fucking role in the movie. So we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, though. What is Polyester about?
Polyester is a woman in crisis because it is a satire of those types of movies. I think in the special features they refer to them as Douglas Sirk movies, which admittedly I haven't seen too much of, but I can kind of get the gist of it, of just like a woman on the verge of a nervous breakdown, kind of like she's going through some stuff and it's about her struggles and we're supposed to sympathize with her.
And but stylistically melodramatic, right?
Yes. Yeah. Intentionally melodramatic. Just of that era of like the 40s and 50s kind of style. But, this was 1981. So it was trying to emulate that kind of tone, but in the 80s or the early 80s, late 70s, I guess. I forget when the movie actually takes place. Does it take place in a certain time? Do you remember?
I mean, if you look at the cars and stuff in it, it looks like the 80s.
Okay, cool. So yeah, they try to replicate that tone and style from the 50s in the 80s, and it's just that much more absurd because every situation is dialed up to fucking 15. Forget 11, it's up to 15. Like the kids aren't just troublemakers. One of the kids just huffs every chemical he can get his hands on, and he's like a foot stomper.
Yeah,
he's just a stomper.
Yeah,
he just stomps women's feet.
Like they keep seeing on the news these like reports of like this like serial foot stomper, just a guy that goes around stomping on women's feet, and then you like immediately realize that it's the fucking son. Just
because he's just like looking through pictures of women's feet that he's clipped and put in his diary or something.
So what's it about? What's Francine's story?
Her story is, how is she ever going to recover from all this bad stuff happening to her, and how is she going to get through it all? Right.
So her, so she is this, so Divine plays this like well-to-do like housewife, right?
With a very acute sense of smell.
Yes.
Very importantly.
Yes. And that comes in later. She has all these things stacked against her, right? She has a husband who like kind of fucking hates her. And he owns a dirty movie theater in town. And she's like super ashamed of that.
Yeah, because the neighbors are constantly hounding them and just outside picketing, being like, "You dirty man, you dirty family, go to hell."
It's beautiful satire because like Divine like embodies like kind of conservative America at the time, and then her daughter is just out on the town all night. She's dating the, as you call him, the ne'er-do-well of the town.
Yeah.
And her son's a fucking foot stomper, and her best friend's Edith Massey. So just all these things go wrong for her, and her life fucking falls apart, and she becomes an alcoholic. And then she runs into Todd Tomorrow. That was excellent.
We didn't plan that. Boom, take one.
Who is just seemingly the man with the biggest dick energy on the planet.
Oh, yeah. We never get a waist down shot, but you're looking.
Yeah, you're hoping.
You're hoping to get a glimpse of that today.
And I keep hoping and looking. Divine looking like Divine, right? Seems just like a pair that does not work, but he's super into her.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they start flirting during a grotesque auto accident.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Where there's just a head on the road, and he's like, "Hey, come check this out. My name's Todd. Todd Tomorrow."
And Francine's just like, "Oh, Todd."
Yeah. She can barely keep her pants on. Yeah.
And then like the next scene, they're like fucking or something.
Yeah.
She like brings him home. But then we find out it's all a sham because her
Her mother,
no good mother, who's trying to get all of her money, I guess hired Todd.
Yeah.
And I think that reveal is really funny because like we're supposed to think, oh, like he's a really good looking guy and he conned her, but then he's over here like making out with her fucking ancient mother. So, that's just who Todd is.
Neither of them, Todd or her mother, like love each other. They're purely doing it to get a reaction out of Francine.
Yes.
It feels like everyone in her life is doing it to make her miserable. It doesn't feel like she actually did anything to deserve it.
No, that's the thing. She is the woman in trouble. She just wants this idyllic family. But I think the beautiful thing is that it all works out in the end, right? Like her daughter, she like sends her off to like a nun school, and you've got these really bizarre sequences where the nuns are like super bitches. And like in the nun school, it's like a room full of like dozens of women, and there's like 4 beds, and they're
and like half of them are pregnant.
Yes. But she reforms. The son reforms.
He goes to prison and then like does art school at prison. He's like, "Ma, I'm reformed. I'm an artist now," or something. Yeah.
Look at what I made.
And it's awful. And she's like, "Oh, I love it."
It's all feet.
Yeah.
There's just like he channeled his rage into art. But just it as a movie, I think is really fun. Because it's just absurd. It's just so every scene is something that you can't really believe. And there are all of these kind of incongruous things that are happening, right?
Yeah. It is overwhelming. And the fact that it stays overwhelming throughout is pretty impressive. Like, it doesn't actually slow down until it's over.
Right. It's got that like energy. Again, this being like a transition kind of movie, it's got the energy of past John Waters movies where like it just in older John Waters movies, it just feels like everyone's yelling constantly.
Yeah.
And you've got a little bit of that here. Like Divine still has that style. And it's really funny because John Waters says like the reason they're all yelling in the older movies is because we had shit sound equipment and we didn't know if we could pick up the voices. so you've got Divine still doing these like really theatrical like line deliveries on a movie where they definitely have good sound equipment.
Yes. So that explains them being in bed together. And she's just like, oh, you smell so badly. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, and the smell.
The odorama.
Odorama,
the gimmick,
the first movie to utilize odorama technology. John Waters, being who John Waters is, just loves grossing people out, and part of the release of the film was they would give out these cards, these like scratch and sniff cards.
Yep.
And then they have this little thing at the beginning of the movie that says, if this number pops up on the screen, scratch the number and sniff it, and you'll smell whatever Francine is smelling. Because like you said, she has this like hyper developed sense of smell. So you get to kind of interact with the movie in that way. You get to smell what Francine's smelling.
Yeah. And I love that you described it in the most normal way. But that's not how it's delivered in the movie at all. It's some mad scientist being like, "Welcome to the odorama lab."
Like a German scientist. Yeah.
Just be like, "Ooh, look at what we're cooking up here in the lab. The odorama smells." And of course, that's how a John Waters movie would introduce the odorama.
Because only a mad German scientist would dare try it.
Yeah.
And then we have Hairspray, which I think is probably definitely the more popular of the two.
Yeah.
It's got a remake.
Yeah. Accessible. Even if you haven't heard of John Waters, you've probably heard of Hairspray.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Hairspray is about this teenager in Baltimore in the early 60s. Her name is
Tracy Turnblad.
And she's played by Ricky Lake. And, all Tracy Turnblad wants to do in life is dance, right? And particularly on the Corny Collins show.
On the Corny Collins show.
So the Corny Collins show is this concept that John Waters actually like pulled from his own time growing up in Baltimore. I guess they had these like public access shows where they would put on dance competitions for teens. And like he said he knew people he went to school with who would go on to these shows and dance.
Yeah.
There was a really funny thing that he said in the special features about that. He goes, like, you know, and when these kids would go on these shows, they would basically become celebrities. Right. And he says that, you know, to be that famous locally in high school, you were either revered or beat up. And he said, that's a wonderful way to go through life.
I love the way his mind works.
Absolutely. So, you know, the thing about Tracy Turnblad is she's a hefty gal, right? And, but that doesn't, you know, stop her from A, wanting to dance, and B, being absolutely fucking awesome at dancing.
Yeah.
So she tries to get onto this show, but, you know, the bad guy, the kind of upper crust of the show, I think the bad girl's name is like Amber.
Yeah.
Yeah. She wants to be the best, and she doesn't want Tracy Turnblad to be on the show. She thinks it lowers the classiness.
Yeah.
You know,
it would be
of it all.
unbecoming. Yeah.
But of course, so, you know, that's the big, you know, kind of setup of the movie is Tracy is really good at this. She wants to get on this show. She wants to win the competition. Amber fucking hates her and everything she represents.
Yeah. And Tracy also wants to desegregate the show too. So that's like a double whammy.
The ironic part is, like, you know, they play like this really good like R&B from the era. And that's what all the kids dance to, but the show has to be segregated. Like, the black kids can only dance on the show like once a month or some shit like that.
Yeah, something like that.
So I just really love this movie because it's just a good time, right? It's a far cry from earlier Dreamland movies like Multiple Maniacs, Female Trouble, but it doesn't lose the energy of those films. And I think you totally unlocked something when you said that earlier for me, because
cool.
That's what it is. It is a John Waters movie. It has that John Waters energy and sense of humor, but, you know, it's not as like mean as the earlier ones. You still have these larger than life characters that really define a John Waters movie, and you still have Divine in a little bit of a smaller role, but, you know, memorable nonetheless.
Yeah, and you can tell, and this is peeking into the special features for it, but John Waters says he loves all of his characters, even the villains, and you can tell that he still loved his villains.
Yeah,
in Hairspray
absolutely.
too.
Yeah,
that's why he cast Debbie Harry as the villain. I was like, all right, I can't hate her, even though I hate everything about her.
Yeah,
I love Debbie Harry.
They're the juicier roles for sure.
Yeah,
I think another thing that I really love about this movie is that Tracy Turnblad is a larger girl, right? And that's something that's directly called out. It's made fun of and even owned in the movie, right? There's a scene with Mr. Pinky, and he owns this store called the Hefty Hideaway.
Yeah. I pre-laughed thinking about it.
And it's a dress store for larger women, and there's so many fun details about the movie. Like he always has like a table stocked full of donuts.
Oh my God, I forgot about that. That's great.
Right. But it's like, it's not like mean spirited. It's just like, hey, here's a place for larger gals. Right.
Yeah. He somehow calls their residence when she appears on the show. Like he got their number mid broadcast and was like, I need to represent her immediately.
I need Tracy Turnblad to be my spokesperson.
And then when, Edna, her mother, got there, he was like, holy cow.
Yes. But you know, like the movie doesn't really treat it like oh, you can do anything you want to do kind of thing, right? It's not pandering, and it's not like an overcoming adversity movie, at least not in that way.
No.
Tracy is who she is. She loves to dance. She has confidence in herself and what she believes. And she's also aware she can get that damn leading man.
Yeah, Link.
Yeah.
And Link is like, yeah, you can get it too.
Yeah. He's fucking obsessed with her.
He never wavers.
Yes, by the end of the first act.
Even when his damn kneecaps are broken at the rally.
Should have called Crawl out.
Tracy! Crawl on his knees. I love that so much.
But, you know, I think Tracy Turnblad in a lot of ways is like Divine was in real life. Her weight, her style, her family life, none of that is ever presented as a point of shame or something to overcome, right?
Yeah.
It's not about that.
Damn, you're good. That was a good line you drew there.
And I think there's definitely like a queer, you know, reading of this. That's really not lost on the filmmakers. John Waters, Divine, a lot of the other Dreamlanders are gay, and they were gay in a time and place in America that was violently not, you know, okay with gay people.
Yeah. I think that's the parallel between like being for like anti-segregation, for desegregation. It was like, yeah, it should be normal.
Like, why are we
be with
even,
people that are different?
Yeah, exactly. To Tracy, it's just this makes sense. Like, why, like, this doesn't make sense. Why is this even an issue, you know?
Right.
So, you know, like the Dreamlanders, right? They were outsiders, like Tracy was. They were wonderful weirdos, like Tracy was. And, you know, I like this movie as an allegory for an experience that owns an attitude of people being entirely unashamed of who they are.
Yeah, that's great. Let's actually, if you don't mind, let's just dive into the Dreamlanders themselves.
Okay.
'Cause I feel like before we watched these movies, I didn't even have a good concept of that. I feel like a fake John Waters fan, honestly. But I feel like you looked into this a lot more than me. So I would love to hear, like, starting from zero, what were the Dreamlanders about? Tell me more about Dreamland.
So the Dreamlanders or Dreamland, right? That's the production company that they made all of their movies through.
In Baltimore?
In Baltimore, right? Like,
which I think is very important.
Right. All
they
of John Waters' movies,
Baltimore.
All of John Waters' movies are set in Baltimore. So I think that's another thing that you can love about John Waters, right? Is
repping his city.
Yeah, and everything he does is inspired by like people he like knows or is aware of, you know, like it's a very I think setting is important in film, and John Waters chose Baltimore, and it makes a lot of sense
because it's just as weird. I hope it's as weird as he makes it out to be.
So the Dreamlanders, you know, they were essentially just a group of friends that either went to school together or all kind of converged in Baltimore, like all at the same time, you know, late 60s, early 70s. They just went for it. They just made movies, right? Like, if you look at the production budgets of, you know, the very early Dreamland films,
let's look at them.
And like keeping in mind that like film at that point in time was not a cheap like thing to get into, but they made their first two features, Mondo Trasho and Multiple Maniacs, for $5,000 each. $5,000 each. Pink Flamingos, which is probably the most infamous John Waters movie, $12,000. $12,000, and they made one of the most infamous like gross out movies of all time. That's nuts.
Yeah.
Female Trouble, $25,000. Desperate Living, now we're starting to get a little bit up there, so they're starting to get known. $65,000, and then You Land at Polyester, which is, you know, one of the movies we're talking about, $300,000.
Yeah,
which is still not a lot of money for a film.
No, but that feels like real,
right?
At that point, for something about just over 100K, I'm like, that's real movie money, right there.
Yeah. And then Hairspray, you know, that's the big, they've arrived, $2.7 million.
That's like basically blockbuster money.
Yeah,
at
exactly.
that point. Yeah. Good for him.
There's a point in the special features of Hairspray where this person who was a production assistant on Polyester, who I think was working for New Line Cinema, she was assigned to then go and be the producer on Hairspray. And she said she was so nervous about, being this production assistant in this group of people who had all been, working together forever, and then becoming basically their boss, right?
Yeah.
That was really intimidating.
That's like, thanks.
Yeah.
The person to point all the blame at.
And then she was nervous to interact with John, and then John Waters' reaction was just like, "Oh, you mean I finally have someone who can help me? That's great." So that kind of speaks to their experience, pre Hairspray, right? Is they were a kind of a troupe of people outside of the Hollywood system, very outside the Hollywood system.
Yeah.
They just did everything, right? John Waters wrote, directed, produced, and even was the director of photography in a lot of the earlier films. I can see him just going out there and hand holding like a Super 8 camera, which I'm pretty sure is what they filmed some of their like earlier films on, which is probably why they don't look so good when you blow them up on a big screen.
Yeah.
But they just scraped together what they could, these just kind of poor misfits, and did movies entirely the way that they wanted to. I really like that.
Yeah. Speaking of like that perception of like, oh, I'm an outsider coming into like John's world.
Mm-hmm.
There was a good special features on the Polyester Criterion called like Dreamland Memories. Great little 20-minute documentary about all that, about those group of folks. And it's basically kind of what you expect, like just a bunch of little freaks and weirdos. But just they had an intense love for each other. They were very defensive about each other.
Mm-hmm.
Like to each other, they would joke around and fuck around and make fun of each other all day long. But if someone else made something, then they would hide behind.
The claws came out.
The claws came out, bitch. And but like if you're in, you're in.
And that just comes with, you're a group of people and you're working for this common cause. And you just want to protect that. You want to protect that good shit you got going for you,
Yeah, because we're all sensitive. We're just all a sensitive bunch. And we want to feel free to just throw an idea out there, but then also not have it shot down immediately, even though that's what's going to happen.
Right.
Like, let's be real. Not every idea is a good one. Most are bad. And sometimes you'll just be like, there's no way this is a good idea. And someone will be like, that's the greatest idea I've ever fucking heard. You never know.
Right. And then it's also about just trusting that like you can throw a bad idea out and you're not going to get laughed out the room. Yeah. These movies are all collaborations and never could have happened if like everyone wasn't on the same page of what they wanted to do.
Yeah. So like in a way we keep calling them like John Waters divine movies, but they're Dreamlanders movies. People we probably haven't mentioned so far, Mink Stoll has been in every single one of the Dreamland films, and she is fucking excellent in everything she does. And then who was the production designer, the art director on all those films? Vincent Peranio.
Vincent Peranio, yeah. And just when you think about what those movies look like, and not even considering the earlier films, just Polyester and Hairspray, those are very unique looking films.
Yeah.
Because they came from the mind of someone who was inside that group and just had the vibe right.
Yeah. Who knew the right decisions to make right away.
It's cool to see this group of people working together so passionately for so long, and then with these two films that we're talking about, they finally get that recognition. They finally get
Absolutely.
that wide release, and they had definitely kind of made a name for themselves. And after the success of Hairspray, John Waters and the Dreamlanders, they start getting, bigger production budgets, can start working with more stars. We get Crybaby with the up and coming Johnny Depp.
Heard of him?
Serial Mom with bona fide movie star Kathleen Turner.
Yes.
And then, in the 90s, late 90s, maybe it came out in 2000, can't remember. You get Pecker with all of the indie darlings of the late 90s, right? You've got Edward Furlong, Christina Ricci, Lily Taylor from The Haunting. I think she was in her most big thing was The Conjuring.
Yeah.
And then you get Cecil B. Demented with Melanie Griffith and Stephen Dorff. A Dirty Shame with fucking comedy giant Tracy Ullman and Johnny Knoxville. And then you even get a Hairspray remake that has just tons of fucking stars, right? John Travolta playing Divine's character.
And I love that John Waters is actually in that.
Yes, he's the Flasher.
I bet he requested that.
Absolutely.
I want to be the grossest character in the movie. And they're like, we got you.
It'd be, I don't know. Is that that weird brain doctor in
No.
Okay.
They kind of excise most of Penny's stuff, actually.
Okay. Amanda Bynes was Penny, right?
Yeah. Which is, it's kind of funny that they cast Amanda Bynes, but then kind of sideline a lot of her stuff. But that's neither here nor there.
But, with the popularity of Hairspray, I think that gave a lot of people the opportunity to look at John Waters' earlier films, right? Pink Flamingos being one of the most infamous low-budget monstrosities out there. And more people are discovering it every day because guess what? It's got a Criterion release.
Damn.
And I was looking at it the other day. There's a puke bag in it.
Again, I love his brain. I love the way his brain works.
He's a showman, Yeah. But beyond the movies, John Waters and Divine, they're just now icons in and of themselves, right? You say Divine to anyone who is like down with like art and pop culture, they probably know what you're talking about.
Get a little head tilt, little knowing nod.
Yeah. People probably know who Divine is more than John Waters, to be honest.
Yeah.
There was an interview on the Hairspray Blu-ray where the interviewer asks John about his persona. And he's like, oh yeah, it's absolutely a persona. Right. So there's John Waters, the person, and then John Waters, the character. And I think he has a lot of fun with that. And then likewise, Divine, who played these kind of loud, larger than life characters, drag is all about performance and embellishment. Right.
Yeah.
But as a person, Divine was always described as like a sweet, intensely caring and supportive person. Which, he was very much missed when he passed away. And that is a really, really sad story.
Yeah. This actually shook me because I didn't realize until looking it up for this podcast how soon after Hairspray's release it was. Just 3 weeks.
Damn.
After it came out in theaters. Divine was in LA doing rehearsals for Married with Children. He was going to have a guest spot on Married with Children for the second season finale. And then after spending the day at rehearsals, he just later that night, after grabbing dinner with friends at the hotel, died in his sleep from heart failure. 42.
That's fucking sad.
Yeah, 42. Because
it's so fucked up that you have, and I think John Waters says something similar to this, but it's so unfair that you spend so much time, effort, energy, and passion into kind of working in the dredges for so long, and then you finally get some fucking recognition, and then it's over.
Yeah. And I think an even sweeter detail in all of that sadness is that when like his friends discovered him like the next morning. They sat with him for 6 hours and made sure that the paparazzi couldn't take any like photos of his body being removed from the hotel. So those don't exist. So I think that really speaks to who he was, that his friends were like, we're not getting those pictures out there. Like we're preserving this guy's memory.
There's in the special features of Hairspray, I can't remember his name, but he's the son of one of the Dreamlanders.
Yeah. Brooke, who was Pat Moran's son, is Divine's godson.
Yes.
Just that was a lovely.
Oh yeah. He
interview.
was just like, he was like, there's no Christmas without Divine.
Yeah. The quote I wrote down is, I remember his life and not his death, and I think he'd want it that way.
Yeah.
He's like, I never think about his death. I think about who he was, how he treated people, and I treat people that way. Yeah.
Which is why I think another reason for watching these two movies is being able to see Divine at the height of his popularity and skill, and just like putting his entire fucking back into the roles that he was in.
And in Polyester, his nose into it.
Yes. So if you want to watch these movies, which we hope you do, enjoy them as a wonderful double feature, you can get Polyester on Criterion, and you absolutely should get it on Criterion, because Derek, what does it come with?
It comes with an Odorama card. Yes. It's the only way to watch it. And he knows that. And you can experience the Odorama, and then you can kind of secondhand experience some of the stories behind Odorama, like some other things I wrote down from the special features on Polyester, which are on the Criterion, that some of the UPS people that had to deliver those Odorama cards got annoyed by the odor because they would just stink up the trucks. And I bet John Waters laughed his ass off thinking that he kind of just annoyed these UPS drivers. And another thing about Odorama, this is probably John Waters, the persona kicking in, but he mentions that at some point a Rugrats movie was using the Odorama name without his permission.
Did he sue Nickelodeon? Please tell me he did.
He tried, I think. I don't think it was successful, but one of his lines was like, an homage is a check in Hollywood. He's like, they tried to say it was an homage, but an homage is a check in Hollywood. I'm like, what a bitch, but what a correct bitch.
I love him. I love him so much. We need to protect John Waters at all costs.
Yes. I think in Polyester, they also have the no smoking in the theater clip. It's like, the theater doesn't want you smoking in here. And he's just... But I say, what's a film without a cigarette? It's nothing. But anyways, I was told not to smoke, and then he just does like this violent French inhale. He's like, it's like, anyways, don't smoke.
There are some really great John Waters quotes that are floating around the internet, and I'm not sure how true they are, but I'll repeat the misinformation if they aren't true. There's one, he's like, people should read more books. If you go to someone's house and they don't have any books on the shelf, don't fuck them.
No, that's real. And that's true. That is true. I hear people, and I'm not going to call them out by name just in case they do listen to this podcast, but I've heard people at work saying like, I don't read. I'm like, God.
Yeah.
God, sickening.
Don't fuck them.
Sickening.
Unfortunately, Hairspray is not on a boutique label, but it is on Blu-ray. So I sound so bitchy about that.
So go get it. My only complaint with the Hairspray Blu-ray is it doesn't advertise just how many special features there are on there. Yeah, they're not as comprehensive as say like the Criterion is, but there's a lot. But the back of the box just says includes vintage interviews, and I thought that was it until I dove deep into it. I was like, oh, there's a handful of these things on here.
Yeah, most of them are like 80s as fuck, shot on videotape kind of. I did like that interview though, where the kind of news anchor goes and talks to John Waters in his apartment, and he's got the fucking
I didn't watch that
John
one.
Wayne Gacy. He's got John Wayne Gacy.
The plot of Dirt.
Yeah.
Okay, I heard about that from a different interview.
Oh no, yeah, you get to see the dirt in that interview. So guess what, guys? If you want to see some John Wayne Gacy dirt on John Waters' shelf, get the basic ass Hairspray Blu-ray.
I think that's got to be part of his persona, right? Like, I don't think that's just weird. That's so weird to have.
He says that a fan sent it to him.
Oh, okay. That makes total sense.
Yeah.
Because then there's other aspects from different interviews on that Blu-ray where it's like, John just has a bunch of fake food around the house. I'm like, that's real. That is real as hell. He just has fake martinis, fake food lying around the house. And I'm like, the John Wayne Gacy dirt? Yeah, that's definitely, he's like, ooh, honey, this is gross. And just probably put it on the shelf.
Yeah. Yeah. But go out, watch these movies. We hope you guys love them. And tell us what you think. That is it for PhantasmaCast, where we watch our favorite movies 2 at a time. I'm Jake.
I'm Derek.
Catch us next time.
Boom. PhantasmaCast. Cast.